Hello everyone, and welcome to this video where we are going to be doing the mechanical assembly for the AXIBO pan tilt slide system. Everything we're going to be assembling here is out of the PT1 system. So we have the S1, which is the slider. We have the EC1, which is the controller, the PT1, which is the actual pan tilt head, and we also have the F1, which is the focus motor. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to assemble and set up the slider. Now, everything that we have here is if it was out of the box. So if you take all the parts out of your box and just lay them out on the table and follow along with the setup video, you should be good to go. So the first thing with the slider is there's actually not a lot of setup to do. It comes out of the box, ready to go. The slider is fully assembled. All you will have to do is fold the legs into a position that you want. On the bottom, you could also instead mount it on a tripod. There are 3/8 mounting points on either end, and there's also a 3/8 mounting point in the middle. This slider that we're using is configured with the high torque drive. There is also a silent drive which is available. The high torque drive allows AXIBO to act on an angle and to act with very, very heavy cameras, and it can actually act totally vertical with lighter camera loads on it as well, which is really cool. Once we have the slider set up, which didn't take long, we want to set up the pan tilt unit itself. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take our pan tilt unit, we're going to unfold it. Now, while I'm unfolding this, I want you to take a note of some markings. If you look on your slider, you're going to see a diamond. And that diamond is our alignment diamond, and it's going to be right here on the slider plate. And you want to use that to line it up correctly with the pan tilt unit. And this ensures that everything is pointing the right way and makes sense in software. So on our slider, we have an arrow pointing forward. We want to line that up with our diamond pointing forward. We have a 3/8 mount on the bottom, which we can put on top of this. And there's a hand wheel on the bottom, which we're just going to go ahead and screw up. And here we go. Awesome. And now what we have is we have AXIBO mounted forward. You have the PT1 mounted on the S1. The next thing we want to do is we want to tackle our camera mounting. The camera mounting comes like this. What we want to do is we want to open it up, and we want to configure it in this L shape. We want to tighten this bolt, and then we are good to go. So we take this and we're going to mount it onto the onto the PT1. So we have a little screw hole in the side, so we just want to go ahead and mount it to that. It just screws right in. And the nice thing about this is that we can adjust the height later. So we can slide it and move it up and down. The next thing that we want to do is we want to attach the carriage, which is for it hooks up to the rail, and it's also what bolts to the camera. This is going to slide onto the end. We can slide it on this way, or we can slide it on this way. I want the focus motor on the outside, so I'm going to be sliding it on this way. Now what we want to do is we want to take the hand wheel, and we want to screw it up until it threads into the next piece. If you're looking at it, you'll know what I'm talking about. You thread it up until it's into the next piece, and it goes all the way through, and you'll know you've done it right if you can slide the carriage back and forth without it falling off. Okay, so this is on there now, and it'll all lock up once we install everything. So the next thing we'll do is we'll take this rail. This is a standard 15mm rail. You can use another one as well. You don't have to use the one included. And we're going to insert it into the holder. Now, the important thing about this rail is it's very good to install because it also acts as a guard. If you're using AXIBO for the first time and you're tracking and you're experimenting, AXIBO can tilt over a very large range of motion, and if it crashes, this protects your lens. So it's a very good idea to have this bar on when you're using AXIBO for the first time, even if you're not using the focus motor. The next thing we're going to do is take our focus motor, and we're going to slide it onto the rail, and we'll just configure all this and tighten this so that it's in an out-of-the-way position for us installing our camera. So it's out of the way, we can install our camera now. So for this one, I'm going to be installing a Z-Cam, and it's got tripod mounts on the bottom. There's also a tripod mount on the speed booster that's attached. And then we also have just a standard an aftermarket focus ring attached to this lens as well. If you have a lens that has the gearing integrated, that's awesome. It'll be compatible with this focus motor. It's the standard 0.8mm size. So what we'll do is we'll take it, and it's a standard tripod mount. So we're going to thread it on to the camera. And the position doesn't matter. You can slide this around. It depends on your cabling. Maybe you have HDMI cables coming out. So you can move the camera left and right as much as you want. It doesn't make a difference. Now, the other thing to be aware of is that you don't really need to balance AXIBO. You can mount the camera kind of however you want. So I can take this and I can move it all the way back, and it's going to work fine. There aren't going to be any issues with it. And that's very important because it speeds up setup time. You don't have to do as much work. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to move the focus motor in so that it's on the gear. And then I'm just going to test that and move this, make sure the focus motor gear moves correctly, and that setup is good and ready to go. So now what we need to do is we need to do the electrical side of things. How is AXIBO getting powered? Where is it getting its intelligence from? So we have our controller. This is what is used to drive AXIBO, and it also houses all the intelligence. It also interfaces with the batteries. Now, on it, what you'll see is that there are 5 black ports and 1 silver port. And the silver port is for Ethernet if you're using it in the studio. The black ports are the ones we want to use. We can plug any cable into the black ports. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take these cables and I'm going to plug them in. So this is the long 3-foot cable. And then we also have 3 of these 1-foot coily cables. So I'm just going to take them and I'm going to plug them in ahead of time. You can also do this after. You can do this once AXIBO is already booted. You don't have to do it ahead of time. I'm just doing it so that you can take a look and see how the cables are connected. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this and I'm going to slide it onto the side of AXIBO, and I am going to flip the clip. So now everything is attached together. The clip's very easy to use, and I'm going to plug these cables in. It doesn't matter which one goes into where, just use the long one for the slider so the cable doesn't stretch too much. So I'm going to plug this in, and I'm going to take these cables and I'm going to plug them into whatever axes. It doesn't matter. It all gets detected and configured correctly regardless of how you plug them in. And then finally, we'll plug in the one for the focus motor around the side. Now the system is almost ready to go. We just need to power it. There are 2 options. One is to use Sony NPF batteries. You can use large ones or you can use little ones depending on what runtime you want. Or you can power it off a DC connector on the front. This is a barrel jack. As long as it's around 12 volts, it's going to work. So this could be coming off of a V-mount battery or wherever you want to get it from. It could just be the wall plug that's also included with AXIBO. The batteries, quite simply, click into the slide. Now AXIBO is booting and ready to go. Check out the other videos for how you can use the gamepad and also how you can connect and use the app. Thanks very much.